Today I am going to be testing out a new brush pack that I just purchased, and this is my first ever purchase from MaxPacks, which he makes pretty well-known brushes for Procreate. And the pack that I recently purchased is the Retro MaxPacks, which has a mixture of, I believe, 70 different brushes in this set. It's massive, and the heavy theme is like gouache and pastels, which are things that I've really been enjoying using in my work, so it seemed like a good thing to kind of like refresh myself, spark some inspiration. And I'm really excited to test these out for you guys today and show you what they are like. So I'm just going to go through and swatch every brush. I'm using green, so hopefully you guys can see that pretty well. And let's just start checking them out. So when you buy the MaxPack Retro set, you get the Retro MaxPack with all the brushes, and then you also get Retro Smudge. So those are meant to be used with the blending or smudging tool, which you would find here. You guys can see the little I don't actually know what that little symbol is, but it's like a finger smudging things. We're gonna go with that. And then of course your brush. So let's start with the brushes. The first one is Max U Gesture Sketch. So meant for sketching. And whoops, this is going swell. Okay. Ooh, that has a really nice texture to it. Also, the canvas that I'm working on is a really big canvas. This is a 5,000 by 5,000, and it says that you need to use at least a 2,000 by 2,000 or 2,000 size based canvas. So we're definitely working in a great size for these brushes. This looks really nice. It has a lot of texture. It can be used for it's got that really fine defined edge there. So that'd be good for like sketching something in, but also like having texture. If you go on the side, ooh, that's got a really nice side action finish here. Let's clear that off. It's got a really nice texture. I feel like that could be really good for like shading. Using it in a multiply blend mode would be really cool. And the more you go over it, the bolder the color gets. And it's already it's at a pretty small size. So I wonder what it looks like all the way up. Let's go. Ooh, look at that. That is a really nice texture. And you can kind of see it has like a flat brush to it. So that's really nice. I would say it is associated to how you have your canvas. Yeah. Okay, that is really nice. So we're not going to leave them up because there are 70 brushes here. That's a lot to get through. The next one is the same. So all of these brushes have like pairs. So this one's pair is a Gesture Sketch Flat. So it should have a flat edge. And it does. You guys can see like, whoa, it's like flat on both sides. It's doing some funky things there. You go to the side, it's more straight. You go up and down. It's a very neat one. It's like the same texture that you saw in the last one. But that could be really cool for like water, clouds maybe. Ooh, even foliage, like the way that goes up is kind of neat. I don't often use brushes with this sort of edge, so it should be interesting to try to see how that works into my work. I kind of like it. It's kind of fun, kind of different. It probably takes a little bit of a learning curve for that, but I'm here to learn. The next one is the Max U Viz Dev Sketch, which I believe that this one also comes in the sampler pack, which I did buy the sampler pack as well. And yeah, that one does come in there. So if you buy just his $5 sample pack, you can get this brush. That's really nice. It's very opaque. There is still some slight texture there, as you guys can see, but it's very opaque. Ooh, and when you go to the side here, a little bit lighter, and obviously you could play with the opacity, and the lighter you hold, like the lighter you press, the lighter the outcome is, and you can see a bit more of that texture, but the harder you press, obviously, the thicker it is, like a real like paintbrush. So that's cool. Next up, these are the ones I was most excited about because, like I said, I've been liking gouache and the pastel textures, so we're starting in the gouache little section here. The first one is Max U Gouache Natural. So I believe all the natural ones you should be able to use on top of each other, and they'll actually like create some color variations and like just a texture variation, whereas the natural glaze version will be more opaque. That like the brush pack comes with a like a little bit of a guide, and I feel like that's what it is. Wow, look at those edges. It totally looks like I just used a brush. When I go over it, you guys can see how it like leaves like that gouache texture, and that's really fun. And it kind of creates a little bit of like a color variation, so I feel like there's a lot of potential for here, for this brush in particular. I mean, look at that. Ooh, I like that. I've been wanting to add more painterly like strokes and things into my work. I feel like working digitally at the beginning, I got so focused on everything being perfect, but now I kind of want that texture that you would get if you were using a traditional medium on paper, even though I have a hard time using it on paper. So it should be a fun experiment, but that's a neat one. You can do a lot with that. And if you go to the side, it's got a bit more of like a dry brush like look, and that's really cool. And I like how whenever you go over it, it's literally like building the color. Very realistic. And the lighter you go, it's about the same. The harder you go. There you go. Now we're gonna go check out the glaze version of this brush. So the glaze version, I believe, is a bit more opaque. Like you can see I'm doing it over it again, and it doesn't really change anything. So it's got the same texture and that dry brush like look, but when I go over it again, you're not going to get any color variation. So if you were wanting to like fill a background in or something like that, that would be really good for that. Then you could always go add details and like shadows and color variations with the other brush. Just depends on what your goal purpose is here. Same sort of dry brush side, a little bit less of it. Oh no, there's about the same. But that's kind of cool. If you go over this one, it just kind of takes over the unique, like more real gouache-like feel. So I'm going to go ahead and clear the canvas now that we compared those two. The next set is the Maxi Gouache Natural Flat. So this should probably be the same as the last one, texture-wise, but just like a flat edge. So I'm gonna go ahead and make a circle. Oh, I like how that variation was. Did you guys see that variation there? I'll like blow up the screen. And the more you go over it, the little color variations you get that like wet paint line around the edge. That's really nice. And if I go to the side, get that dry brush look. If I do it very like full force on the screen, it's more opaque, and that's nice. And like I said, if I do a straight line, whoops, not quite a straight line, it's got a nice flat edge and actually a pretty crisp line. It's like you would peel the paint, not the paint, the tape off of your paper, and you've got that nice edge. So that'll be really nice if you were trying to fill in like a particular shape and you wanted a particular shape, but you don't want to use a pencil or something. So the next one is the Natural Flat Glaze, which would be just like it, but like the other one, it's more opaque. Actually, did I not switch the brush? I did, but it has a very, it's similar to that one actually. So it looks like it builds up and gets to a point where it doesn't build up anymore, but it does have a little bit of a light tone to it, which is nice. Ooh, and I like that stroke there. That's really nice. This one is acting a little weird. I don't know. I recently did an iPad update, but that shouldn't have any, I don't know, but that one's really nice. I like, that's almost got like a, oh, my tip is unscrewed a little bit. It's got like a ribboning like look, so I like that. Also, how did I do that? That was cool. Well, it's a very nice brush. It does have a little bit of overlap, but it gets to a point where it's like full and you can't really see the strokes in it. So I guess it is just like the others. And the fact that you reach full opacity. Next up is the Maxi Gouache Natural Detail. So I'm guessing this one is ideal for detailing. Ooh, I like the feel of this one. It is pressure sensitive, which sometimes I don't love a pressure sensitive because it hurts my hand, but that's where you just change your pressure on your iPad, which is a great thing that you can't do with paper. So, and this one's got that variation you guys can see there. Super nice. If I go on the side, dry brush like look, Super cool. The less pressure you put, the smaller it is. The more pressure you put, the bigger it is. And you get that reacting there, which I love it when a brush that's digital reacts like that, like you would on paper. It's so cool. The glaze version of that one. Let's go over here. So that's fully opaque, and when you go over it again, it doesn't change anything, so you don't have that color variation. Ooh, I like that for the texture adding. I think that'd be great. I do a lot of work with like sand and different things like that in my pieces of art. So I feel like some of these sort of things for like where the water has been to create some texture variation and the illusion of the sand being wet could be really great. Okay, next up is the Max U Gouache Natural Wash, which excited to see this one. Ooh, look at that. It's even got like the paper like it's on, I mean the texture like it's on paper. You can go over it. That's really nice. And like you can make it so it's a little bit bolder the more you tap in a space. And then I bet you could like mix this together with a blending tool that they have. That's really nice. I like that a lot. It's really great. And then the flat wash version of it. Wow, look at that texture, guys. Like that's epic. I have a line of cards that has like a gouache like background in the back, and I feel like this would be great for that series of cards because it really adds a little something something. And that's great. So that is the wash category. Next up we have the Gouache Natural Thin. See what this is. Ooh, I like the end of the brush. It's a very nice rounded one. And then if we go over it again, we get that full coverage, building of the colors. It also does react within itself. It's not as strong as some of the others, but the more I tap in paint-wise, it does add some variations, which I think is great. Next up is the Gouache Fine. Ooh, look at that texture, guys. That's so nice. It's like I'm using a big rounded brush. And if I go over it, it does start to fill into full opacity. There's some slight color variation with that brush, so it kind of creates the like you're putting paint on top of paint vibe. Not as strong as some of the other ones, but it is there. Side view, it's just more fine. That one's great. Next up is the Gouache Fine Glaze. So it should be just like the one we just did, but the glaze version. So it should be thicker, doesn't react within itself. Let's go to the side. It's just more narrow and fine. A little bit of that dry brush. If you go very lightly, it's kind of like a dry brush. Nice. Next up is the Gouache Fine Flat. So it should be like that last one. Ooh, that is very flat and very straight. That would be very good if you wanted to like get some straight lines in there. Up to this point, I usually use a pencil for all my straight lines and then fill in with the texture. This does like change as you add more. And not a major color variation, but there is still enough. Ooh, I really like the color variation though in this one. I feel like you could really set up the basis for some good like foliage, plants and things. There's a lot of potential with this guy. Yeah, I like it a lot. Okay. Next up is the Gouache Fine Flat Glaze. Really nice and thick. This one does not react with itself. So you're just going to get like a full fill if you colored something in. And you can lift your pencil. You're not going to create any overlaps or anything. It's just going to be solid. And it's got a really nice edge. So we're going to clear that. Oops. Next up is the Max U Gouache Retro, which I believe is like the whole idea of this collection in general because it's a retro pack. It looks like it's gonna have a lot of texture. Oops. Ooh, that's nice. It does have a nice texture. Ooh, I said something about foliage on the last one. I feel like this one's gonna create a really nice naturally edge. And does this one have overlap? Let's see. I feel like I will use this brush and it needs to be a bit bigger when I use it. It does have a slight overlap. You guys can see the color there, the color change. Let's make this brush a little bit bigger. Ooh, I like it bigger. Look at that texture in that. Yeah, I like that. That's nice. Yeah, that was really nice. I definitely feel like this one is meant to be bigger because I love the texture when you go like this and you can see the texture in the back there. And you can go over it and get some color variations. I like that a lot. Again, I feel like that's a good one for foliage, which is something I struggle with, so hopefully these will help. The Gouache Retro Flat. So this should be like the other brush, just more of a flat angle. Again, it's a little small by default, so this one might be better for me if I turn it up in size. It does overlap, as you guys can see here. Lots nice. Also, I wonder how this this is pretty nice for straight lines, but I'll say it's very pressure sensitive, so you'd have to keep like the same pressure the whole time, which is something I struggle with, so don't know that I'll use it for that, but let's turn it up for the sake of turning it up and checking out the texture full size. Like I said, this one's very pressure sensitive, so depending on how light or heavy of a hand you have will depend on the opacity, of course, unless you turn it down. That one's really nice. Also, if you make changes to these brushes, now on Procreate, you can actually go reset brush. So that's cool. And get it back to what it was when you originally bought it. Next up is the Retro Detail brush. Probably meant for detailing. Ooh, look at the texture in there. That's really nice. I could definitely see why that would be good for detailing. Or even like adding shadows. Adding some texture to some pieces. I do a lot of work with white, and sometimes adding texture to white items it's hard, but I feel like this could have some really good potential. I like the rugged edges there, and on the side a lot more texture, like a major dry brush moment going on there. That's really fun. And did it react with itself? Yes, it does slightly react, and not as dramatically as some others have, but it does. Next up is the Retro Rough. Oh wow, that's got a lot of texture going on there, and it does have that like rough look, which again, I know I've mentioned foliage a lot, but I feel like this would definitely work on that. These do overlap. It kind of looks like it gets to a certain point and then it doesn't react with itself a ton. Very, very slight. But if you did like plants, I know I keep saying it, but I feel like this has potential. I wouldn't necessarily use this for like straight lines because it is so textured on the edges, unless you like that look. I like a more defined edge than that. Oh, I love how if you like don't lift your pen and you just keep going, like the paint like really spreads out. That's really cool. I wonder if you ever run out. I don't know, but I like it. That's really fun. So that's great. Next up is the Gouache Retro Wash Detail. Some of these names are kind of hard to say. Ooh, look at that. That's really nice. Ooh. So these overlap, and I guess you can, it doesn't move what's underneath it. You have to like keep building up above it, and then you can get some like texture within. So it's going to take some like effort if you want to reach full opacity. But that's a fun one. Let's go to the side. That's a nice texture. If we wanted to draw a circle, that's nice. The Gouache Retro Wash. Ooh, did you see that? That's almost like got like a live paint vibe. That's pretty great. I want to do that again in case you guys missed it. It's like the more I go over it, it's like it's fueling the space with more paint because it starts out light and then without a major like pressure change on my part. It's just like it's filling up with more paint. That's really cool. A lot of potential with that one. I love clouds and I feel like there's like some potential to do some really cool things with that. It really does. It's like it's feeding more paint onto the paper as you go. That's really neat. Okay, I need to clear that because I took up a lot of space. Next up is the Gouache Retro Scrub. Ooh, nice texture again. It does overlap. Let's make a big old circle. I don't know why that's my default. It does overlap. My other default when I'm testing like a pen or something is to write hello. Anybody else like have a default word when they're testing a pen or pencil or something? Because mine's hello or hi. That one's really nice. It does have a nice overlap and it does reach like full coverage, I guess, in like 2 coats and then it continues to react. Here. Next up is the Gouache Retro Dry Brush, which I've been mentioning like a lot of the brushes, if you use it on like the side of your pencil, you get that dry brush like look. So let's see what this is. Ooh, look at that texture. Let's go to the side. It's like a more scattered version of it. And it reacts. So like the more you build up, oh, that's really nice. Because I do struggle with like bushes and trees. And I feel like this could be like a really good help in that because it gives a lot of texture without like individually drawing every leaf. Not drawing, painting, you know what I mean. Like that has a lot of potential. That's really good. I like that. I like the color variations in it. That's wonderful. Next up is the MaxPack Gouache Flow. Clear off the canvas again. Ooh, look at the edge on that. That's a really nice edge. The lighter I go, the more fine of an edge that I get, which is nice. I might play with my pressure sensitivity. Ooh, and when I go over it, it does build. There's a slight color variation, but more so it just builds the color intensity, I would say. Wait, did you see that? It's like, hold on, let me try that again. I feel like it moved the paint. So I brought that in and it did. No, I guess it didn't. I am imagining things. Although when I go lighter, it's like it's bringing it. I don't know, maybe it's a figure of my imagination, but I feel like it's blending it. That's cool. I like that a lot. Okay. Next up is the Gouache Flat Flow. So it should be the flat version of the last brush we just played with. Nice. Nice defined. It's kind of defined. Side view. I like the side view. Oh, this is nice. It kind of, this one really does blend it out because when you go over it, you can't see the stroke anymore. It does like blend in, which is cool. It's a really nice reacting brush. Really nice. Ooh, did you see that color variation when I did that? Yeah, that really does. It like smudges it out. You can't see the shapes that we did underneath it. That's a really nice brush. I love the color variation. Next up is the Gouache Flow Detail. Let's see. Ooh, that is a really good detailing one. It's got some texture, some variation in the color there. If I go over it, it's like it's blending what's underneath it, which is really cool. Ooh, yes, indeed. Really like this one. Let's go and make the default circle, apparently. Go again. It's got some nice color variation. And when you go on the side, you just get like a more soft feel for the brush. Really lovely. Look at that texture. It's so nice. Next up is the Max Gouache Flow Rough Detail. Ooh, that doesn't feel rough. Oh, I see where they mean by the rough part, like right in there. The harder you press, the darker the color is. It doesn't really react. It doesn't majorly react on top of it. You can definitely tell that it's like building up the color, but I don't see like texture change. One's nice. The Gouache Flow Rough. I guess this pack is so full of brushes. Ooh, look at that texture. We're all about texture right now at the moment, apparently. Fill in the circle. I haven't lifted the brush. Okay, that's a really nice texture. I could see that being really useful because it does have all that variation. Let's go on top and see what happens. Ooh, did you see what happened when I come in? Well, it didn't. Yes, it did. I feel like it blends. That's nice. So it does build up, become more opaque the more you do. And it does have a color variation. You just don't see a ton of the texture change there. Next up is the Gouache Flow Old. Let's see what this one's like. Oh, this is nice. Very similar texture to the last one. And you can see like what was or wasn't underneath it. It builds up nicely. Very nicely. Not a ton of reacting when you go on top. Once you reach a certain amount of coverage, I feel like it just remains the same. That was the Flow Old. I'm going to clear off my canvas. Next up is the Gouache Shader Wash, which the name of it alone sounds like something I would like. Ooh, that's so soft. Ooh, and the lighter I go on the side, that's such a nice brush. Imagine using that. I can already see its potential. When I go on top of it, it doesn't do a ton. There is a very slight color variation, but it doesn't like pick up the paint like we were seeing on some of the other brushes where it moves stuff around. But that's really nice. I'm seeing like clouds. I'm obsessed with clouds. Next up is a photocopy sketch, which this was a brush that's like I didn't really know how I would use it. I still don't, but it does have a very nice texture. I mean, maybe there's a place for it. Maybe you could use it in some plants or something. Actually, maybe that's a good idea. It does look like it overlaps some, so let's just make a circle so we can see if it overlaps. Ooh, it does. Okay, I'm starting to see its potential. You could use this in shading. You could use this in foliage. Yep, there's uses for this. I understand now. And the side becomes more like a scatter when you go sideways, so that's cool. Maybe even some sea spray. Ooh, the potential. So that's actually a lot more exciting than I thought it was going to be. Next up is the photocopy inker. Whoa, I wonder if that's the default size. Oh yes, I played with this one. It definitely reacts on top and it kind of creates like this harsh edge, which again, I think there's some potential in there for like foliage. This one, I would say, out of all of them, looks a bit more digital than some of all of the other brushes, but I think in an okay way. It also looks like you just went in and did some harsh shading, which I don't think is a bad thing. But there's that. Then we have the photocopy bold. Ooh, I kind of like I get the name too. The texture, and that's nice. The thing that I find interesting on this one is that when you've got like this white spot here, you go over it, it doesn't ever cover it up, which I thought was interesting. And it does create that like where you're moving the paint around vibe. But I think it's interesting that you can't cover up those white spots. Even if you create a new one, it never really covers up the white spots. It's like the texture is there to stay. Yeah, you can't cover them once you've got them, which is interesting. I'm not sure I can think of a use in my workflow for this one, but we shall see someday. The liner Strong. This is just like a traditional liner. It's very reminiscent of like a pencil where you've got like a nice edge. I don't believe this reacts. We're gonna just like, nope, no reacting when you go over it or any change. It's just a nice liner. Next up is Stipple Control. Wow, you can make some nice little dotted. The dots themselves look like they have a variation in color, which is cool. And you can dot it around instead of like using it directly. So that's nice. Then we've got the Stipple Natural, which looks very scattered. This one I see some use for. That's cool. And I like the variation in the dots. That's helpful. Then we have the Stipple Spray, which is very much like the last one, but a little bit more sporadic. And again, you can tap them in and it'll be a little different every time. I'm going to clear off the canvas. Next up is the Fine Grain Spray. Ooh, that looks so crisp too. I love that. Do you see much? You do get color variation once you like fill it in and you like continue dotting. There is some color variation. It's not super strong. Like the lift of the paint's not major, but it is slightly there. Next up is the Pastel Natural, which I mentioned earlier in the video. I've really been enjoying pastels lately, so I'm excited about these. This has a slight variation, but there is a variation. Lovely. And I bet there's like a blender for this one. Then we've got Pastel Cloudy. Ooh, that one's nice. Oh, edge is very light. Ooh, but it's got some like really bold texture in the edging. That's nice. But this is cool. It doesn't exactly remind me of using a pastel. And when you go over it, it doesn't have a major pickup, but not bad. Next up is Cloudy Blend. Let's clear this. Oh, that one I like. This one feels a bit more like you've been smearing out the pastel, which you could turn on the finger things and actually like do that on here if you wanted. That'd be kind of fun. The lighter I go, it seems to get lighter, which is cool. The harder it is, the harder it goes. And this one obviously does react. It does look like you might hit a max opacity on this one and then you don't notice much of a reaction, but there is some. Pastel Thick Blend. Ooh. Yeah, that's a strong pastel. Ooh, I liked how you could see the pull there of the white and the green. That was pretty cool. And you go on top of this one. Oops. Yeah, you get that. That's pretty nice. If you guys are super interested in pastel brushes, let me know because I do have a really great pastel set that I could do a video on. Pastel Fine Blend. Ooh, I like that. That has a very nice pastel feel to it. Ooh, I see potential in that one too. I like the way that this works as I go in a circular, like cloud-like motion. Because as I mentioned earlier, I'm obsessed with clouds in the side. The lighter it goes, and I like that it like reacts with the whatever I already have on the canvas. I think that's cool. Very cool. I will always admire people's ability to make brushes because I sure can't. Pastel Grainy. Ooh, that's nice. It does get more intense as I layer it, and it does have a slight like variation. Ooh, actually it has a really good variation. It doesn't have that like full lift like on the edges of where your brush would be, but you know what I mean, the pastel piece. But that's really cool. I like that. It looks very reminiscent of using pastels on paper. Next up is a pastel soft. Ooh, that is soft. That is a great way to describe it. See, this one does that thing that I like where you can like see the edge of where you are working. That's not great in every piece, but I feel like there's some potential here with this guy. And it does have the variation in color. You can see more like bold grains. There's a little bit of like a yellow in that part, which is nice. I like that one. That is Pastel Soft. Next up is Pastel Sketch. Be a bit of a harsher pastel. There is very, very minimal color variation in this one, I would say. And when you go over it, it doesn't change anything. But the edges definitely have a texture. And the lighter you go, the more texture you get as well. Next up is a Pastel Flat. Ooh, I like that. It's very nice. I like how every time you go over it, like the whole thing changes. Also, like I feel like this reminds you of using like a palette knife. Not obviously with pastels, but like with paint in general. Over a really textured surface. Like that's pretty cool. I like how that really reacts. Oh, wait, there's like directional reactions. Like when you go like this way, that's really nice. I like that. Pastel Flat Thick. Nice. It builds up as you go. It looks like you reach a certain opacity and you are done. The lighter it is on the side of the pen. And I like that it like overtook that line that we had there. It like literally just like blended it in. Texture on that one's really great. Oops. Retro Scrub. So these scrubs and these sponges in the description of the brush set actually say they're great for like foliage and trees and things. And ooh, I like that. That has a really nice loose like texture on the outside. It reacts when you go on top again. It's definitely got some color variations, which is nice for creating a natural like look. It's not like super strong with the like edging lining when you go back over it, but it's definitely there enough to tell, which is nice. Really good color variation. I like that a lot. Big fan. Retro Scrub. Okay, Messy Scrub is next. Ooh, same purposes that I just mentioned the last one. Look at that. Oh, I like that one a lot. Like I said, I really struggle with foliage and I don't know. I think I find it necessary to like try to draw every leaf and that is not feasible. But the texture of this really adds something that you just can't get without like an actual medium. And this is really good. Look at that. That's all one brush. That is wonderful. That was the Messy Scrub. Now we're going to do Scrub Wet. I should clear the canvas. Okay, Scrub Wet. Ooh, that's nice too. Really fun edge there. It does react on top of the same. It looks like you reach a certain darkness and that's like all the darker you're going to get. But you can like tap in and get more of a smooth texture. You can tap it in and get more rough texture, which I like for the color variations. Then there's a lot of cool things you can do with that. Next up is the Grungy Sketch. Ooh, that has a lot of nice texture too. So this one doesn't have a color variation, I would not say. But that's really nice. That could add some great texture. I feel like everything I've said is just texture this, texture that, but hey, we like some texture. Blocky Bold. Let's see what Blocky Bold is. Woo! Blocky Bold is big. Oh wow, that has some interesting. The lighter that I do it, the more sparse the texture is. You can almost like tap it and get some interesting. It does not react with itself. No, it's all solid. So you can fill that in completely if you would like. Next up is Sponge Natural. Ooh, that's nice. There's some color variation in that. I'm not even sure that you would know if it was like reacting with itself because there is such a nice color variation. A lot of use with that and purpose. Next up is the Sponge Fine. Let's go move it up here. It's a bit more intense. Ooh, look at that as you try to fill it in. The variation, the colors are great. You can even use this on top of like something that you've already filled in and it would add a lot of texture and just a great overall look. Next up is the Sponge Thick. Ooh, yes, look at that. I didn't move my brush. I did that completely, filled that in. So much variation. And I could continue going on top and creating even more. I love that. That's great. Next up is a Sponge Heavy. And that is the last one. Ooh, look at that one. That one has a really vast, like, color change. Wow. Like Studio Ghibli, like quality. You could do some really cool stuff. I want to use that in clouds. Look at that. Like, I really like that. That's very different. And I kind of like that I did that and then it like started to look darker in that area. You can kind of really play with the shape. Whew, I like that. Okay. So we've officially gone through the first 70 brushes, which is insane, and that's why this video is so long. Next up, we are going to clear this. I'm gonna go grab, let's go grab this flat glaze, and we're gonna create a few lines. Not exactly what I wanted to do, but let's go for this. I'm gonna fill this in completely. I know I could use color drop, but I never use color drop, so. That really does have a painterly-like look. I like that. That's really fun. Instead of doing that again and taking up more time, I'm just gonna do this. Now, the are not straight. We're not here for perfect. We're checking out the smudging. So the first step is a blending stump. How fun is that? So these actually you use on this tool over here. So I'm gonna go to the smudge set, blending stump we've got. And I'm gonna start from the outside and it's like, oh, look at that. That's fun. That truly is like using one of those paper rolled blending stumps. That's cool. Oh, I love that. That's really neat. And wow, you can really see that it like left the residual out here. That's fun. Oops, I keep going back. Okay, next up is the Smudge Gouache Natural. Ooh, look at that. That would blend your paints so nicely if you had various colors. Really blends those well. Blends it out. That's really cool. Very realistic blending there. Next up is the Smudge Gouache Fine. Once again, that's really good. Really, really good blending. Blend it outwards. So much potential there. And actually, you know what I'm going to do is I'm going to go change the color of this one over here so we can like blend them together. Because why not? Let's just blend it in. Like, look at that. That really, I mean, it's going to create an ugly color, but that really does blend it together. That's cool. I keep switching back, sorry. Next up is Gouache Flow. Ooh, yep, that's nice. You can see that you get more texture as you go. It slowly gets rid of that full line. It works really well if you pull it out. Let's pull this one out. Ooh, I love that color in general. And you're gonna get a weird muddy color, but hey, I like that. And we can pull in the white and blend in. It's just a really great blending tool. Next up is Gouache Retro. Oh, that one's small. Look at that. I'm going to turn it up a little bit. Ooh, I like that. And imagine oh, I just had an idea. You know, like when you're, okay, I like gouache retro. That's wonderful. Yep, that's great. Next up, I did it again. Retro dry brush. Ooh, turn it down. Oops, bigger. Sorry. That's nice. Pull in more white. Pull in more green. That's fun. Next up is Smudge Fine Grain Spray. That's nice. You could create some neat highlights like that. You can see it like even brings in some white or something. Pastel Natural. Ooh, yes, that's really good. That'd be really good for blending some pastels. Like I said, it's gonna be an ugly color, but whatever. Pastel Soft. Ooh, that is very nice. I want to blend like that, a whole bunch of blues together like that. That'd be lovely. Pastel Thick. We're gonna move it over here. Ooh, that is nice. Very nice. And I like the texture that you get there. You guys can see that. Very nice. Do it again. Messy Scrub. Ooh, I like that a lot. There's a lot of like natural potential with that one. Oh, look at that. I love that. That's wonderful. Let's pick a spot down here. And the last one is a Grungy sketch. Ooh, that was neat. Looks like you really need to like pull out a lot if you want to get that texture. It runs out pretty quick. That's a nice way to blend. So there is a quick overview of the retro pack, including the smudges that come with it. Overall, these brushes are great. They're a lot of fun, and I can't wait to see how I can fit them into my style of art, because there's a lot of potential here, and I think a lot of just fun and potential. And these are definitely not the best colors to have mixed together, but we had fun, and hopefully you guys enjoyed seeing these. When I was thinking about purchasing these, I noticed that there weren't any videos, or there weren't that many videos of like reviewing the brushes, so I hope that this is helpful for you. I will link the MaxPack's website down below, which is where I purchased them, and I hope if you guys get these, you really enjoy the brushes. So thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this. I'll see you guys next time. Bye!